Right, Dosty, we've landed here in Brisbane, mate. Firstly, how good's the studio?
Mate, very lucky to be here. Very, very lucky. Looking forward to it.
I'm very excited to show. Welcome our guest.
Welcome the guest.
Our guest today is one of the best midfielders in the AFL. He's a Premiership player and a Best and Fairest winner with the Western Bulldogs, and now is an absolute star for the Brisbane Lions. Josh Dunkley, welcome to the Dos and D Show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, how's we're just chatting life up in Brizzy, mate. It's different. It's warmer. It's nicer.
It is. It is. We were sort of just talking about it off air when we just the lifestyle in general, like the weather. You can't complain. Even today is an absolute perler outside. So it's nice to be able to, obviously get your footy stuff done, but at the same time, then when you go home and outside of football, it's just so much more enjoyable, I feel.
You're looking very tan too, by the way.
I've got a bit more of a tan, mate. It's good.
We were just saying, we came in and there was a Brisbane newspaper. I don't even know which one it was. But Dos and I decided we'll have a look at how many pages before we see an AFL player, from back to front. So it took about 7, but the man in front of us was the man we saw, which was looking very, very sharp. But, mate, what are some of the main differences, firstly, between life, as a Bulldog player and a Brisbane player, especially in the cities?
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about the Melbourne bubble. I feel like that's one of the big differences for me that I've noticed so far is just the fact that, when you walk the streets or if you go to a cafe, there's not many people looking at you. It's just like you're, another person, which we are in general. Like we actually are another person. It just doesn't feel like that when you're in Melbourne. So being up here, it's a lot more relaxed and you feel like the eyes aren't really on you as much, which is nice. So you can sort of get away from football, I feel, which is very important for, everyone talks about mental health and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think coming up here, it's been so refreshing for me to be able to get away from all that and obviously just focus on footy and life in general, which has been nice.
Mate, you boys are in some good form too. You're going very well. Off to play in Melbourne, back to Melbourne against the Blues, mate.
Yeah, so obviously it was a disappointing start for us. We lost to Port Adelaide over there in round 1, which is a bit of a pantsing, to be honest. We weren't great that day, and I feel like it's just it was a connection piece. Like all the new guys coming in, me as well, included in that. Just trying to find how we're going to play together. And the last few weeks, I think the last 5 weeks, I think we're 4-1. So starting to really find that click and work together and build that chemistry, which has been nice.
Big Horn Francis looked good though round 1, so he did very well. He's
mate.
looking in form too.
Yeah, he's a very impressive player.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everyone talks about it's a highly topical thing in Melbourne. I think amongst the media, just how much they talk about him, and he's going to be a serious player. Like what I came up against in round 1 was a good player.
He's unbelievable.
Very Dangerfield-like. The power. Yeah.
You mentioned getting out of the Melbourne bubble, which is really interesting. When you were in Melbourne, how do you go with people coming up to you all the time? Are you the kind of bloke that enjoys taking photos, signing autographs? I don't know if people sign autographs anymore. That might be a few years ago.
Do they?
But taking pictures and having a chat, or do you prefer kind of in your own space, taking your own time and not getting amongst it?
Yeah, it's a good question because I think it varies with a lot of players.
Yeah.
Me personally, I try to embrace that. So I get around the people. You put a smile on someone's face, and it means a lot to them, and it should mean a lot to you. And I feel like that's the way that I've approached things ever since I was a kid. We'd get visits from Carlton players down in Gippsland, southeast Gippsland, and 2.5 hours away from Melbourne. You don't see many people from Melbourne, so to see professional footballers was awesome. So I try and emulate that now that I'm in that position for those people that do come up to you. So it's not a stressful thing. It's just more that I feel like you're in footy mode more down in Victoria than you are in Brisbane.
100%. Even at, you go down to Melbourne, the first 10 pages of the back are all sport, and they're all AFL.
Yeah,
always. It's like that. I mean, I guess if you could look at either of us, and we were going to probably do this a bit later. One of us is a Bulldog supporter.
Bulldogs nuff.
Bulldogs nuff.
Oh, really?
Real nuff.
Like real nuff. Who do you reckon it is?
Oh, I don't know.
DOS or D?
Don't know. Probably DOS.
Yeah.
Well played. Well played. What gave it away?
Don't know. Just a guess.
It's going to come up. It's going to come up later. We're going to really dive into that. But we were actually talking because it's cool. Like we're going to talk about Adzy shortly, and maybe some of your new romances up here in Brisbane. But in terms of players and media, this is something we find really interesting. We talked before with the mutual connection, Tommy Sheridan. He came on the show and he was saying when he was playing, he wished that there was more access to doing podcasts, being yourself, having your personality come out there. And he would admit this, and he said on our show, he took the piss out of himself, but he said it wasn't until he thought he was done where he started showing his personality. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you like the fact that now players have more of a voice and can show, who they really are without, I suppose, the scrutiny of PG?
Yeah, I do. I still think that there's a lot of media out there that actually still players would look at and be like, stuff that. I'm not going to go and do that because he's just going to, hang shit on me or whatever it might be. So I feel like the game has moved more into that space, and you can start to see more personalities like, the American versions of, LeBron James and all these people that are over there doing so well. So I feel there's a lot more players doing it, but I still feel like that we've got to release the shackles a little bit more because you're not going to see, especially younger players. Like younger players come in and they're in this bubble and they're all, it's soaking up the environment and they're so nervous about what they say or what they do. Whereas, as you get through the system a little bit more into the later years of your career, you start to realise that you can have a voice.
Yeah.
So to learn what they go through, I think is a massive thing as well. So, yeah, just to relax a little bit more is probably my wish.
So when players like Ginnivan, for example, that come into the comp and straight away goes massive on places like TikTok, it shows his personality. How do you feel as an opposition player? Do you get stuck into him, or do you think that's awesome? Like you want to embrace that kind of stuff?
Me personally, I embrace it.
Yeah.
I'm like, good on him. Like he's obviously realised that he's in it. Yeah, it's such a small part of your life.
Yeah.
AFL football, and if you don't make the most of it, like I think the average career these days is 4 years.
Okay.
3 years.
It's not long, is it?
It's not long at all. So you got to make the most of it while you can. I feel like someone like Jack Ginnivan, good on him.
Yeah.
But I won't chirp him on the field because it's like, well, that's what he wants to do. So good on him.
100%. So for you, right, when you watch content, whether it's YouTube, I don't know if you watch YouTube and you watch other athletes create their vlogs. We love our English football, and there's a lot of football. I don't know if you watch the Wrexham doco or the big soccer club, or they're not a big club, but there's a lot going on over there.
Yep.
Do you enjoy watching that content of other sports? I know you're a big American sports fan.
Yeah, I do. I love watching all those documentaries, especially the ones that take you inside the inner sanctum of football clubs or, NBA clubs or NFL clubs, whatever it might be. So I feel like the more insight you can get, the more you can learn off other people too. Like, I learn a lot of my stuff, obviously through Adzy Treloar, which we'll probably talk about soon, but he then learned it from guys in America. And it's like, well, you learn that through watching these types of inside, information kind of things. And so for me, I feel like it's a big thing to be able to do.
For sure.
So you think having more media come into the room, say pre and post game, that's a good thing? Is that something you like?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's obviously difficult when you've got so many eyes and there's little things that you might not want to show that then the general public can see. But these days, we do opposition analysis. We know how the opposition wants to play.
Yeah. So true.
So what's the difference? Like if they know how we want to play, well, they already know how we were going to play. So for me, I don't really care about that kind of stuff.
So you like the roaming Brian? It's it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good content.
Love it.
I think it's good.
When you started the pod with Adzy, do you have to go to the Bulldogs and get that signed off? And what's the process? And how are they saying, okay, yes, you can do it, but you can't say this, this, and this? Do they put shackles on you in terms of you can't swear or you can't talk about this side of life? Or I'm really interested to hear what restrictions you may have had.
Yeah, so initially, early days when we said we wanted to do it, it was a bit like, oh, are you sure? Like, we're not too sure about that. You're going to have to tick it off with us. But if you don't, we're not going to go out there and say something controversial, really bad. We just want people to understand that, we're normal as well as everyone else out there. Like, we're just another couple of guys doing a podcast that enjoy each other's company and sitting there talking to each other. So that element of it was a little bit, at the start, I think they realised that as soon as they listened to the first couple of episodes that we had, it was like, oh, well, these boys are just having a bit of fun. Like, it's a bit of a laugh. Whereas we're not going out there and potting blokes like, Dylan Brooks in the NBA and stuff like that to LeBron James. So, I think
one athlete, and I don't know, but Tommy Mitchell posts a lot of content. I know he's doing ball magnets, but Collingwood have then seen that and taken it, and Collingwood are creating this type of content too. And everyone's loving it.
Yeah, well, Tommy's been a massive advocate for it for a long time, I feel like now, and obviously with the ball magnet stuff, it's kicked off quite a bit, and I have noticed that Collingwood have actually taken a lot of his stuff
I know.
and posted it themselves. Like, they're getting giddy in there now.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks to him. So, yeah, good on him. I mean, that's what he wants to do. It's probably his life post-career as well, so it's nice to be able to get started now.
I would have thought a team like Brisbane would really benefit from that kind of insight to try and draw more people in a NRL dominated state to the game.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about it is if you want to get fans, like a lot of and I always look at America because that's like what I look at all the time, but fans are drawn to players more so than they are clubs.
100%. Yeah.
So you want all your player personalities out there and you want people to be liking that type of player, but then they're connected to the footy club. So then it just becomes let's support that club because he plays for them.
That was
Or
Stephen
she
Milne.
plays
That
for
was
him.
Stephen Milne for me.
Was it?
Literally came to school, went and saw him play, kicked a bag, carried on, and then straight away I was a St Kilda fan.
Yeah. So I feel like that type of thing is how it all connects up now.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're starting to learn the process a little bit.
Yeah.
How is the podcast going? You and Adzy? It looks like it's going well. I actually used to listen to it back when you guys did it yourselves, and I loved the Bubba and Jono one. I used to love those two. That was good. But how's it all going?
Yeah, it's going well. So we've obviously joined up with Tommy Sheridan. We talked about him before, the Oz American Aces, it's called now. So that's our umbrella, and it's the Ads and Dunks podcast in amongst that. And it's similar to what we used to do. It was probably more like this back, 12 months ago. But now we do it obviously online because he's in Melbourne, I'm in Brisbane. But it's the same thing. I just go and sit in front of a computer screen for an hour every Tuesday night, and we just talk and, some topical things about footy, but then just life in general. And we've both got partners who live interstate from us, so talk about them a fair bit, and it's just us two having a chat, which is great.
And outside of footy and like transitioning, is media something you want to go down, or do you want to go take podcasting further when footy goes away or finishes?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I feel like it is a natural thing that I've sort of become to like.
Yeah.
But yeah, the podcast stuff is really good. Obviously, it'd be nicer to do it in person like we are here today.
Yeah.
But yeah, down the track, maybe might venture into media. I might just continue doing podcast stuff, but I do really enjoy this side of it, which is nice.
Yeah, nice.
How did and I know you probably don't like talking about it too much, but how did the trade and everything finish up? Were you happy with how it all went and finally getting what you wanted?
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult process. You asked the question, was I happy with how it went? Probably not, because it dragged out till 5 minutes to go in the trade period. But yeah, I mean, I was happy. That's I felt like my time at the Dogs was obviously up, and I had my reasons for that. And this is what I mean. Like, I can say what I want to say, but I'm not going to say all the right things, and people can make stories out of what I'm going to say. But
well, that's obviously happened, hasn't it?
Exactly.
And I have felt for you, because I'm like, even Bevo came out and stood up for you and said, no, there's a different style of training.
Yeah. It's just, I hate when, you get twisted words, and I love that football club. Like, I gave my all to that football club. The players, the staff, everyone there, I just had the best time. And I wouldn't be where I am today without them and everyone involved. So people need to understand that. Like, I'm not leaving on bad terms. It's just that I've left for what I want to leave for in my life. Like, I feel like up here is where my future is. My partner's from up here. Her family's all up here. This is where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. So why not get started now? It's a great opportunity for me. Exciting young list, and obviously going really well. So I was, when you asked me about was I happy with the process, probably not. But now that it's all done and dusted, I'm very happy and very settled.
Can I quickly ask something else? I think, though, you've got a perspective that's different, because you just said before, footy short. I think so many people that are in that bubble, it's almost like they think footy is the only thing and it's life. You're thinking much bigger than that. You're thinking of lifestyle away from the game, after your career. I know we talked about, you get to be in the same state as your siblings. What do you enjoy in life? I enjoy nice. Like, it's more than football.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. Yeah. Like, I don't look at it at anything different to what you just mentioned. It's all about how everyone talks about happiness. Like, you just want to be happy with where you're at and what you're doing. And obviously, having my partner's in Adelaide at the moment, but having known that she wants to come back here when she's done and dusted with netball is nice. Yeah. So, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel, whereas I don't think she was ever going to come to Melbourne. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know that she'll potentially come back here one day when she's finished, and we can, live happy lives.
Well, just on your point, Dos, like, some of the media do spend their whole careers in the media. They might be in there 40 or 50 years, so it is their whole life. Whereas players come in and exit the system, and not all of them go into media or coaching. They go into whatever it is they're passionate about. But I know you're probably sick of this question, but best and fairest night, did you have an inkling about winning it, or did you think about what you're going to say if the moment came?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about it. I wasn't – I had no idea. Yeah. Like, absolutely no idea. Because when I when I spoke to Bevo about the trade and requesting it and all that kind of stuff, he mentioned to me, like, are you going to come to the best and fairest? That was one of his questions. And I was like, I wouldn't miss it for the world, because I'm not that type of person. Like, I'm not leaving on bad terms. I'm going to the best and fairest. I'm celebrating the year with the boys and the footy club that I obviously played with. Yep. So I'm not that type of person to not go to that. But then on the night, I was so scared. It was probably the most nervous I reckon I've ever been.
A man not wanting to win for once, yeah.
It was, but I did. I wrote, just in case I won or like was on the podium, I wrote a speech. So I did make a speech and tried to keep my words together. But I got a bit emotional up there because it was like obviously a proud moment, but at the same time it was a sad, like obviously leaving the footy club and leaving the people that had done so much for me was difficult too.
At least there's conspiracy theories in the past about players that should have won best and fairest, and then they left the club and then it got rigged. So at least it wasn't rigged. That's the
like probably could have done that, to be honest.
Oh well, I guess now in Brizzy, mate. Who's the new bromance? Obviously, gets talked about a lot. You and Adzy. It won't go away. But who have you kind of warmed to at the Lions?
Who's Adzy worried about?
Yeah. He's probably worried about a few.
Nah. You look twice at a couple of them.
Yeah.
What's the categories we've got to tick off when you see a new romance?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the whole group in general has been really good. I played with a few boys throughout the Vic Country process. So like, the Berries, the McCluggages, I obviously knew Lockie Neal, playing against him a little bit. I actually tagged him a few times, so we had a couple of times where we were butting heads. But all those guys, I think everyone down there has been really good. Gunner's obviously coming in as well, being a fresh player from Melbourne. Obviously both sort of coming from the same state into the Brisbane Lions. So lean on each other a little bit there. And I just feel like the whole group here is very close. And outside of the four walls are still hang out with each other.
Yep.
Whereas in Melbourne, I feel like everyone sort of goes their separate ways. You might meet up every now and then. Whereas here, it's like you've just got each other. Like you don't have a lot of people are from interstate, so you've just got each other to hang around with and enjoy the company of.
How did the romance with I should say romance with Adzy even start? Like, tell us, because it's highly talked about, but we also hear that he might not have been too happy to even leave Collingwood in the first place, but. How did it all begin? What was it? What sparked it? How did this amazing friendship begin?
Yeah, so I just think probably the first time we ever caught up was after that, I think it was 2020 trade period or 2021. I can't really remember. No, 2020, because he came to the Dogs. Obviously, I'd actually requested to go to Essendon and then stayed at the Bulldogs. So we caught up. We actually caught up straight away the next day after the trade.
Okay.
And because he wanted to hear me out and I wanted to speak to him about obviously coming to the footy club. Okay. And I feel like that was the moment where, we just talked it through and he understood my situation and I understood his. And, when you sort of just lay everything out on the table and it's like, this is me. Like, this is what I'm about. This is what I've been through. These are my experiences. And I felt like that connection was just there from then. Yep. And then every single day after that, we pretty much hung out. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. How important is having a really tight friendship in a big group setting like that? Because you can also imagine blokes keeping to themselves, or blokes are a bit shy and they prefer to be around, 4 or 5 as a group. But what do you think about having one good mate at a footy? Obviously, you're mates with everyone.
Yeah, you're mates with everyone. But it is to be honest, without Adam coming at the time that he did and us meeting each other, I probably would have struggled. Yeah. It would have been hard. Footy's really hard. Like, life as a footballer, you get scrutinised every week in, week out. If you don't perform well, he's going bad. Like, get rid of him kind of stuff. And you get messages on social media, all this kind of stuff where if you read into it a lot, you start to be overwhelmed by it all. And to have someone that you can lean on, like we were just talking about, like a best friend that you can talk to and actually relay stuff off and enjoy each other's company at the same time is priceless, I think. I feel like you've got to have that within the, you've got to have a best friend, but then you've also got to have like an inner sanctum bubble that you go to for little things. Like I speak to my old man, my mum, a lot. Obviously my partner, Tippo, and Adam. They're probably the 4 people or 5 people in my little circle.
Yeah, no, I love that.
It's a great point. My old man brought me and my sisters up his sphere of influence. Like, who's in your sphere? It's good to have 5 or 6 people, whether it's a best mate, your family, couple of outsiders. Like, you need a core group of people that you can reach out to, whether if it's in regards to one thing or another. You can't talk to, your dad about what you might talk to with Adzy. It's good having a few people.
I feel like it's really important to be vulnerable. Like, you have to be able to be vulnerable to those people too. Like, when you're struggling, you need to be able to talk about it. Because if you don't, then it just bottles up and then all of a sudden it's just so much stuff going through your head. So being able to clear mind, and Adam helped me do that, which is good.
How has that aspect changed from the time that you came into the system or even going through juniors? Like, I know in the past 20 years there's been this more focus on, say, mental health and vulnerability. Have you seen a big shift inside footy clubs, inside the four walls?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the well-being space has grown enormously since I've been involved, and I feel like those types of people, there's more roles in footy clubs now that they have based on how you're feeling. And, you know, we do a diary every day, you know, how you're feeling mentally. You rate yourself out of 10, how'd you sleep, things like that are always measured. And I feel like if someone, but it's still, I feel like if someone is struggling and they don't want to put it on there because they know that they're going to see it, like there's still parts of that. Okay. But I feel like the avenues that they've got now is definitely way better than what it was when I first started out.
So who sees it, sorry? Is that just the club, or you're saying like everybody, the whole group, or you've got a group of guys within the team that may see you?
Yeah, no, I think it's just the well-being people that see it. So it's not
like, say, three of us, we all see each other and keep each
other.
No.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah. But it is, you know, if that's reported, then it'll probably be relayed through the leadership group to the players, and then you'll be able to, you know, go and talk to that person if they're struggling or whatever it might be. So it is an awareness thing, but also I feel like you can actually go and you're still aware of it yourself.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing you say that about that year, because obviously having Adzy there helps you a lot, but you make a grand final. Yeah. Like, how does that? You say it was a really tough year, obviously mentally for yourself, but you boys did an amazing job.
Yeah, we did. We started that year 6-0, I'm fairly sure.
Yeah.
In 2021, and then I did my shoulder. So that was where it became tough for me, because I'd started, you know, obviously went through that trade period and everything happened the way that it did. So I wanted to earn the respect back of the fans, the boys, everyone at the footy club. And I was able to do that for 6 rounds. And then I, you know, go out for 12 to 14 weeks with a shoulder injury, shoulder reconstruction. So straight away I was like, you know, up on a high, and as footy does, it brings you back down. And then all of a sudden you're pinching yourself that, you know, you're not out there and what's going to happen next. So he helped me through that process, and he actually did his ankle. I think everyone said that he wanted to join me in rehab a couple of weeks later. Yeah, so it worked out, and we could just support each other, because that was when COVID hit as well. So through that year, the boys left. They went interstate to play games of footy, and we were just stuck in Melbourne.
Oh, so you were stuck here?
Yeah, in Melbourne doing rehab together. So those times are where you're really struggling, and we couldn't see he couldn't see Kim, I couldn't see Tipper.
Yep.
So like just trying to be able to enjoy each other's company that way was priceless.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about, even with Ralph, like we were talking about COVID and just how it almost feels like a dream, just the whole, like, and you know, being in Melbourne, just the extreme lockdowns. But for an AFL player, like, it was another level. So how do you think back on that time? Is there any, because it's funny, a lot of people now look back at COVID with the lockdowns and they don't remember maybe how difficult it was, and they you know, when like time passes and you think of things fondly, like good things that happened. How do you think when you reflect on that time period?
Yeah, it does. Seems like a bit of a movie, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It was a tough time. I mean, we were probably lucky as footballers to, you know, still be able to go to work, go and train, things like that. Whereas everyone else in Melbourne was still in lockdown, like they couldn't leave their house. So I feel like we were lucky in that respect, and we got to go interstate to play games. Like it never really stopped.
Yeah.
Whereas early days when it was stopped and you couldn't do anything like that, if we had had to do that for a certain amount of time, it would have been pretty tough.
Yeah.
So compared to the general public, I feel like we were let off a little bit easy.
Okay.
But when we had to go to interstate and go to hotels and not leave our hotel room, we went to Gold Coast in 2020 for 100 days straight.
Yeah.
And away from home, they literally told us we were going to have to go for like 30 days, and it ended up being 100 days straight.
I remember that.
In a hub.
That lockdown was insane.
So,
I hate the fact that we're talking about this, to be honest. But
I find it really interesting to look back at that time period, especially from your perspective, because I know what it was like when we were told, I think one lockdown 2 weeks, and 9 months later, or 6 months later, we're still going.
Yeah.
But how do you keep morale within the group during that time period?
It's hard because when you go interstate and you travel together, you enjoy each other's company, but all of a sudden you spend living on top of each other. It's like, geez, this bloke, seriously.
Yeah, mate, have a shower.
Yeah. Things like that. Like but then I felt like you get into your groups, your mates, you obviously got friends at the footy club, as we talked about.
Yep.
You hang out with those boys and, you cross over with a few others here and there, but the hotels were big enough that you could get away from,
of course,
the footy stuff still. Yeah. But it just felt like, me personally, in 2020, by the end of that year, I was cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was ready for a break and wasn't sure what was going on after that. So it was nice to, obviously, 2021 start that year pretty normal compared to what it was the year before.
When you say you weren't sure, contemplating giving up on footy or?
No, I'm not giving up. I just wasn't sure where I sat. Like I wasn't
Within the Bulldogs?
Yeah, within the club, and it was just a tough period. I feel like everyone was probably feeling the same. It was just the unknown. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're not going to do this again.
Yeah.
So, whether footy was going to continue, to be honest, like it was a bit like that.
Yeah.
Because Victoria was in such a bad stage of COVID, and footy was played all up north pretty much. So it was a different time, and no one really knew what was going to be happening.
What do you love doing outside of footy? I know you've got like a few things. Obviously, we talked about the potty. You've got the investment in the pub, mate, back in Vic. But you obviously love your American sports. In COVID, were you a NBA 2K man? What do you like doing?
I was actually
back home?
In COVID. I was playing Fortnite.
Fortnite was a big thing.
Interesting.
Then, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was playing a lot of it, and then I haven't touched it for 2 years. I
feel like that's what everybody says. Yeah.
So we can't switch you to FIFA. You're not a FIFA.
No, I don't mind FIFA.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Do you like your English football at all? Your Premier
I
League?
don't follow it. I used to. I went to a Manchester United game.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah,
Old Trafford.
Old Trafford.
Ooh,
when
very
I was,
nice.
when was that? 2017. End of 2017. So I went over there by myself, just traveled.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Good on you.
How'd you sort that ticket out? Was that through?
Yeah, that's a
through
hard one to
connections
buy.
or-
It was actually a connection. Nick Dawson. He might listen to this podcast.
Mate, they're hard to get.
Yeah, he connected me with someone from Man U, and
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, got me a ticket to the game, and I went along and watched. It was Wayne Rooney's return to the Old Trafford when he was playing for Everton.
Oh,
Gee, that's a big game.
Wow.
That's a big game.
I forgot that he went back.
Yeah.
Score?
So
What was the score? Don't say 0-0.
nah, it was like 3-1.
Okay.
I remember Lukaku kicked a couple of goals.
Of course.
Mate, it
Might have
was
been his only
unbelievable.
once he scored at Man U. Yeah.
So I got a jersey, got his number on the back.
Of
so
course. you
memories,
gotta-
memories.
So travelling by yourself, has that been something you've done before? Or
Nah, it wasn't, and I didn't really think about it until I caught up. We're family friends with you obviously know Jared Roughhead.
Yeah.
So he
Gippsland boy.
Gippsland boy. Dad obviously coached him when Dad retired from the Swans. He went back to Leongatha and coached him at Leongatha, and Ruffy's always been a huge mentor of mine. And I caught up with him at the end of the 2017 year and was like, "Oh, what do you reckon I should do?" He's like, "Just go travel by yourself."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You serious?" And he's like, "Yeah, go for it. Like, just go and do it." And so I went away in 2 weeks by myself over there in the UK. Went to London. Actually caught up with him because he was over there at the time for one night. So I caught up with him in London. We had a great night.
Do
It was awesome.
a bit of damage
Go to
while you're over
Soho?
there?
No, I didn't do much damage. It was more just, we just had a good time.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, mate.
Enjoyed each other's company for that night. And then I literally just walked around. Like I walked the streets. I met these two older ladies that were on a treasure hunt. So their daughter or someone had done like a treasure hunt for them years before. So they had to go and find all these clues.
Wow.
Yeah, it was random as. And I just ended up meeting him in the street. Like I was walking laps of London. And then all of a sudden just went on this treasure hunt with him. And we
So
ended
you
up,
continued.
yeah, I continued.
Yeah.
We ended up finding like a note. And it was like it said like to mum or something like 10 years on. It was pretty cool.
Oh my
That's
God.
amazing.
It was under a rock. Like,
It'd been there
in the
for
city
10
of
years.
London.
yeah, it'd been there for a long time, up 10 years.
Do you know which part of London, by any chance?
Oh, I don't.
Nah.
It was near the Story Bridge. I know that.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned your old man. So how did you not end up at the Swans? What was the process there?
Yeah, so I nominated Sydney.
Okay.
In my year of the draft, and they had obviously Callum Mills and myself.
Yep.
So Millsy, I think, went pick 3 from memory that year.
I don't know. I know I'm a nuffy, but I don't remember all the picks.
I think he went pick 3, but they couldn't match a bid. They didn't want to go into deficit to take me as well. So I don't think they could match a bid until around about the 30 mark, and I ended up going 26. So would have been in deficit for him into the year after. That was the first year the point system came in, so everyone was a bit like, not sure how it works. Whereas now it's like, whatever, we'll go into deficit, that's fine.
Yeah.
Did you think growing up you'd always play for Sydney? Was that what you thought when you knew that you were obviously going to play professional football? Was that what you thought was just going to happen?
Yeah, growing up I was a Swan supporter, so I loved it. I went up there to do some father-son stuff with him. Adam Goods was one that looked after me all the time when I went up there, and
not bad.
Goodsy was awesome. And then my uncle, I've got 2 uncles living in Sydney now, but one of them lived in Sydney at the time, so I'd be able to go up there and stay with him a little bit when I was training up there for the father-son stuff. So would have been, looking back, you're probably like, I'm going to play for Sydney Swans growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
But then obviously things worked out the way that it did, and we ended up beating them in the 2016 grand
I
final.
was just going to mention that, mate. You go from wanting to go to the Swans to betting them in a granny, mate.
Yeah.
First year, Premiership,
year.
mate. We were talking about that last night. Like, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was good. It was an unbelievable ride. Like I
Yeah.
call it a ride because I was in the team at round 1. So I played my first game round 1 of 2016, and then played for 2 weeks. Got dropped. Played about 8 weeks straight in the VFL. Was consistent every week, and then came back. Played 4 games, and then got dropped again, and then came back in and played the rest of the year.
Wow.
So I was
8 games in a row in the VFL.
Yep, in my first year.
Wow.
Which, I mean, we were going really well at the time.
Yeah.
As a footy club, and
Well, did the VFL win the flag that year too?
Yep.
They did.
yep.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate. I mean, to come in as a first year player, and all I wanted to do, I'm very grateful actually for my upbringing, because Matt Ferguson, when I played at Sale as a junior, I was playing Sale seniors at 15 years old, and he was a past AFL player with the St Kilda Saints, and Ross Lyon coached him. But he came back to Sale and coached us and gave me my first game at 15 years old.
Wow.
But it was all about role playing, and I learnt that then. So when I came into the AFL system, I felt like all I needed to do was play my role, learn my role, and play my role. And I without that, I don't think I would have played in 2016.
Do they? Because you hear a lot about players that happen to be lucky enough to win a flag in their first year, and they take it for granted. Do you think you took it for granted at the time, or did you know how special and how hard it was? I mean, maybe being at the Dogs, being only their second ever flag, that might have made a difference. But what do you think looking back?
Yeah, looking back, definitely took.
You're
it
going
for
for a
granted.
three-peat? Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely took
Mate,
it for
I was
granted.
going for a 3-peat in my head too. You know.
It was, yeah. I mean, to play your first year of football and win a grand final, it's
Yeah.
like, how good is this?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not this is easy, but it's like,
Yeah.
this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, you achieve the highest of highs in your first year, and you're like, what else? How bad can it be?
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, we went back down the ladder, and probably our form wasn't that great after, I reckon it was 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
He
It was.
looks at you like you were playing as well.
No, but I'll watch every game, mate. Heart on my sleeve. No, I remember the next year because they brought in Travis Cloak,
Yeah.
and it was meant to be another big year. I remember. They even had the little gold little AFL logo, and they struggled. They missed the 8.
Yeah, we missed the 8. I didn't play round 1 that year, got dropped.
Did you?
Yeah.
Against the Pies.
Yep. So I was out of the team. There was a few of us. I think there was a couple of us out of the team. At the start
Switched
of
to
that
number
year.
5 that year.
Nah, I switched
No?
to number 5 the year after.
Did ya?
Because I did my other shoulder that year in 2017. So it was difficult. But I feel like now, when we got back in 2021, it was like, righto, if we win this is the best thing like ever. It would be 10 times better than what it was for me personally in 16. But you look at guys like, Matty Boyd, Dale Morris, all the guys that have been around AFL for 10, 15 years. Like, I understand what they were feeling now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Tell us about 21 then, like, because you did it from outside the 4 as well.
yeah, well, we tried to lean on that a little bit.
Did ya?
We were like,
Yeah.
we're going to do a similar thing to what we did in 16. But it was just, I feel like it's a belief thing. Like, in 16, I remember we lost to Freo in the last round in Pav's last game over in Perth. And 10 days later, we had to go back and play West Coast. But after that Freo game, Bevo got us all in together, and he was like, boys, like, yes, we got a few out because we had 6 blokes, I think, coming back for that final. But everyone in this room, we just need to believe that we're good enough. Like, that was what he told us. He's like, who in this room believes that we're good enough? And then blokes would put up their hand, and nearly everyone in the room put up their hand. I think from that moment, it was like, righto, we're going to do this together. And 21 was similar. Like, I feel like we were traveling around. We went to Tassie for the first game against the Bombers. We won pretty convincingly there. And then we came up here to Brizzy and played the Lions.
Wasn't that a game?
That was unbelievable. But I think from that moment, it was like, righto, like, we're a chance at this. Like, let's just give it a red hot crack. And if we fail, we fail. And I think it was actually pretty disappointing because the grand final, up until halfway through the third quarter, we were leading by 4 goals. And then they just had an onslaught of goals. And it was,
do you know about, you would have, I think the moment people talk about that it changed was when Caleb Daniel knocked down Maxi Gawn.
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
actually.
he put Gorney on his bum. And then the other day, actually, the Dogs played Freo, and I saw Caleb knock down Sean Darcy.
Oh, you would have got nervous.
And I thought, no, yeah, I did. I thought, oh no, like.
So Dunks, to a bit of context, I sit with him, and like, obviously when the Dogs are playing, he gets very stressed.
Yeah.
Now, there's a few rules though when you sit next to Doss and watch the Dogs. You're not ever allowed to say they're home. Doesn't matter how. And me as a neutral, I'll be like, mate, don't stress, they're home. No. So we went to
And I'm like, look at it, don't.
we went to the Richmond Dogs game
Oh,
a
yeah.
few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember, it was pretty close. And They're about 10 points up with 2 or 3 minutes left. We're sitting at the G, and I said, mate, they're home. And he looked at me, he went red. He goes, don't you ever fucking say that again. And then Richmond go forward, kick a goal, and he literally looked at me like it was my fault. And he said, see? And I said, mate, I would be one of thousands of people that just said the same comment, but I get the blame. But that's watching footy with him.
Yeah,
gosh.
That is. It's funny you say that. It's probably a trending thing with the Bulldogs.
I know. You know
Being
what?
a part of it, well, you knew that.
I often say, Dunks, I say, I wish I didn't love footy so much.
Yeah.
Or I wish I didn't like. I wish I wasn't so invested. And he actually gets mad at anyone, right? That you know when you people, but you would have barracked for obviously the Swannies, and you go to school and you go, we won on the week. We won on the weekend. If he hears anyone say the word "we," he goes, "What did you have to do with it?"
Yeah, no, that's
mate.
Mate, make me sound like an absolute
mate,
dick.
you had nothing to do with it, but it's true.
Well, it's because I was so invested in St Kilda Footy Club, and they broke my heart so many times that now I'm so detached from it that if they win or they lose, it just has no effect on my week.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's nice to see them win, but I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be over the moon. I'm not going to brag. I've just kind of detached myself a little bit, and I'm a happier person for it. We talked about mental health, mentally much happier, but. Talk to us more. I'm interested in hearing about Bevo because we hear a lot about him and especially some of his themes. So we've heard from the outside that some weeks he has a theme for the week. What's the weirdest theme that you can remember he came to maybe on a Monday and said, for the rest of the week, this is what we're doing?
What's the weirdest theme? There was a couple of different ones. I remember one, there was like a boxing one, I think, against the Gold Coast up. It was my first game back, I'm fairly sure, from the shoulder. And it was just as COVID was about to creep in a little bit in 2021. And it was just a boxing theme and it was all about, fighting yourself out of the corner. I actually saw a snippet of before we played the Dogs at Marvel this year. They were presented Artie Jones with his first game and Trav Barco was up there talking about fighting themselves out of the corner. And I was like, that's the same theme, which Bevo never does the same thing. So whether he used that, I don't know. But he's had some good ones. I mean, grand final day was I'm fairly sure it was about a boy band, and it was all about, this is 16.
Yeah.
And he came to me in the meeting pre-game, and I was fully nervous as grand final.
Hearing, play your instrument or something.
Play your instrument. What instrument you playing, Dunks? And I'm sitting there I'm shaking. 'Cause I'm about to play in the grand final, and I was just I don't even know what to say. I don't even think I said anything. So,
what would you say?
I'm the triangle.
I don't know what to say. First year player, I was 16 games into my career, and grand final day, I was speechless.
With 2021 then, because there was all that rage about the Freed from Desire song.
Yep.
And I remember, because I remember watching the prelim actually, and D and I was obviously in Adelaide, and we got together. He actually decked out in a full Bulldogs kit. I got him in a jumper, and
there you go.
we sat on the couch. And
things you do for content, mate.
But they made that game, and then a bit of footage I think leaked out that week, or it might have been the Brizzy game. I can't remember, and it was all you boys singing in the locker room, and gets to the grand final, and obviously the result. But then the D's ran with that song after the win. Was it as big a thing as it made out to be?
No way. But this is what we were talking about earlier. You want blokes to show their personality, or everyone wants them to show personality. We played that song every win of that year.
Did you really?
So we get in the locker room, and I think they were everyone was having a couple of beers because it was a 14-day break before the grand final. After a game of football during the season, if there's a 7-day break, you have a beer together.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Look at the NRL. You look at all that stuff. They're having beers 5 days before a game. So it doesn't really matter.
They're banging on an esky to the team song.
Yeah. But post game, and then for that to come out, and it's the Bulldogs getting ahead of themselves here. It's no.
That's
this
so
is
frustrating.
this is just normal. It's not as though we've just done this for one game. We were doing it all year. So it's just frustrating how that all works out. But yeah, I mean, the D's played it after they won, and wasn't a blow up because
didn't think so.
There were blokes in our team and in their team that are actually pretty close mates. So it was more a bit of just a laugh. There was a story about us going to a nightclub and everyone getting in a fight. It's no, we were just standing there and, they beat us. So we're probably a bit filthy with them in a grand final. Yeah. But we're not fighting.
I mean, I've never been to Perth, but surely there's more than one nightclub.
Yeah.
Surely.
I've heard there's not too many.
Nah, there wasn't too many on that time.
Well, I'm interested in Bailey Smith too. Everyone's interested in Bailey Smith. But when he came to the club, were you filthy because maybe, now suddenly all the girls are Bailey Smith, and maybe I reckon probably you might have had the rest of the list covered up until Bailey Smith. So.
Oh, no, I had Paddy Lipinski come in
true.
pretty early. He was a good looking rooster. But nah, Baz is he stole the show as soon as he walked in, didn't he? He was a icon of the footy club straight away, and credit to him, he's handled it pretty well. He's going well these days, and obviously been a bit injured lately, but. Yeah, he was a unique. We talked about unique characters that coming into the AFL system. He was very unique coming in straight away and having an immediate impact, not only on the field but off the field as well.
Definitely off the field. In all seriousness, do you have to, with someone like him that gets all this attention, do you guys as senior players have to wrap your arms around him and say, mate, this is how, like, I suppose give advice to how to handle it, because obviously he's heightened in terms of his performance as well. How do you guys deal with it, and who wrapped their arms around you when you came in?
Yeah, it's a good question. You definitely offer support, and me personally, I didn't have that kind of attention, so it was hard for me to actually tell him from experience. I guess I think Bonte actually would help him a lot. With that kind of stuff, because he was obviously iconic as well and had been through a little bit of that kind of thing previously. But speaking of Bont, he was probably the one that wrapped his arms around me when I first came in and taught me the ropes of AFL football and what it's like. But guys like him, Matty Boyd, Dale Morris, who's actually one of our development coaches now at the Lions.
Okay.
So they were all very good at helping me and guiding me through the process, because you do, early days, you ride those, well, not early days, you do it all the time, but you ride ups and downs, and you're not playing, you're out of the team, you're struggling, you're playing well in the VFL, so you're going through a roller coaster of emotions, and those guys really helped me, Moz especially, with his experience and what he'd been through himself, obviously coming off a rookie list, and I think he was playing twos back in his day before he got selected into the AFL. So guys like that actually really helped me along the way.
I think he was playing twos at Werribee.
He was. Yeah.
Was your uncle coaching then?
Don't know.
Sats?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to fact check that.
Yeah.
Who at the Lions when you came up? Who surprised you? I suppose maybe off field. You might have thought you come up against them in previous years. You might have assumed they're this type of bloke, and then you meet them and they're just a totally different cat.
Well, everyone talks about Darcy Wilmot.
Yep.
Being the character that he is. He is a character. He's a different character, but I've actually connected with him pretty well. So
okay.
Like, I just see him as like a normal person. He can say some things sometimes that are pretty rogue, and you're like, "Come on, mate, what are you doing?" But
don't worry, we were telling Ralph, our cameraman, mate, just the walls are a bit thin around here, so just be careful when you run your mouth.
But no, he's great. I feel like everyone's got their character, and it's all embraced here, which is nice. And everyone's got different personalities that you just connect on, in different areas, which is awesome. And Moddy's one of those guys. But another one that I'll actually mention is Zach Bailey.
Okay.
So he's, everyone sees on field how, you sort of see his presence and how he plays his footy, and he's up and about. He celebrates goals like there's no tomorrow. And then he's actually one of the quietest blokes around the footy club.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm constantly trying to get into him and get him out of his shell. But it's good.
What's Fags and Bevo seem like very similar coaches in terms of they just seem like such good blokes.
Yeah.
I mean, what's Chris Fagan like as a coach and a person? Yeah,
Fags has been awesome ever since I met him, really. He's like that father figure, and I feel like you can see that. Well, I could see that definitely from afar when I was playing at the Dogs and looking at the Brisbane Lions. It's like, well, how everyone's playing for Fags. Like, they're actually out there, and seeing him up close and personal, he just cares about you as a person. Like, the footy stuff comes second almost, is make sure you get your life right and everything's going well in your life before you worry about actually performing on field. And I feel like Fags has been really good at that. Bevo, similar. I feel like he was similar as well in terms of being able to get to know you, and he was probably a little bit more footy orientated though, whereas Fags is all about life and helping each other grow, I feel, which is awesome. And you see all the assistant coaches, everyone's got their role, and I think Fags really paints that picture really well amongst the footy club.
Great.
How's his hammy?
I think it's all right now.
Yeah, it's good.
What happened? I think I might have missed that.
It's years ago now.
No, down the slide.
That's still one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It is funny. He told me that story, how it all happened, and what he was thinking. But it's just unbelievable at the time. Like, the boys were paying him out big time.
Oh, it was so funny. We love this question to ex-players, or current players in this case, but biggest spray you've copped?
From Fags or Bevo?
Or either.
Have you caught one from Fags?
Even back in Sale when you're playing it as a 15-year-old, have you copped any real sprays?
I just remember
anything
one.
That stands out.
I remember one in my first year with Bevo. I took a mark on the halfback flank, and I was going to switch the ball, and Luke Dallas and I used to practice these like inside out kicks. So like you fake it that you're going to switch it, and then you just pull this little kick inside. And Dal was there, like on the inside 45, and I was like, I'm going to try and do this kick. And we were down at the time. Like Essendon, I think, were close to the bottom of the ladder, and we were obviously trying to challenge for finals. This is round 20, I reckon, of the AFL season in 16. And I tried to do it and missed the kick. They kicked the goal. Got dragged. Bevo on the phone. It's like, I won't repeat what he actually said, but you can imagine. Like it was like, who do you think you are? you 10 games into your AFL career and you're trying to pull off that.
Always use that card as well.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah.
And when you cop a spray like that, how do you tend to respond? Are you the one that, okay, I just want to take it, like you almost don't want to get the ball anymore and you want to just hide, or are you the one that I actually want to get out and rack up for 30?
Now I probably see it more motivational, whereas at the time I shit myself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I'm going to be out of the team next week.
Yeah, well, that's it. I suppose when you're so young as well, and you're maybe as a fringe player in those days, that would be tough.
Yeah, it was hard because at that time I was playing my role and I wasn't really doing anything above expectation or below expectation. So I think Bevo knew that wasn't me. But to pull me up on it straight away was probably really effective.
Yeah.
It'd be rude not to mention, but the Marcus Bontempelli playing 200 games. I mean, you've played with a lot of good players, and now you've moved to Brisbane. I mean, you've got an array of absolute guns. Like, well, you look at the midfield; it's just so stacked. But the Bont, mate, like 200 games. I can't believe it's happened that quick. But what was he like as a player, a teammate, and being able to play in that midfield?
Yeah, mate, he's one of the greatest, I reckon, of all time that I've ever seen. The way that if you saw what he did off field and away from all the cameras and the lights and all that kind of stuff, he puts a power of work in during the week. He's the first into the club, last to leave. Like, he's doing everything in his power to get better. And to me, it's no surprise. I sent him a text last week just about it. Well, no surprise why he's up there with one of the greatest in the game, because the work that he does and his professionalism, and he started now, like he's obviously the skipper of the Dogs. He started to help others grow as well, and he helped me to get to where I am today. So I wouldn't be here without him. So it was obviously an amazing achievement, but to do it so quickly, and you look at all his accolades already, and he's 28 years old.
Yeah, I know.
Still got a lot of time to go.
I must admit, I said this to my girlfriend the other night. It came up and I went, geez, I'm 28 and look at my life. Like, just, Jesus, look at me. I'm absolute nuffy. Nah, he's a star, isn't he?
Yeah, and even better person too. So
great.
Good on him. Congratulations to Bont.
Following on just from the question earlier, best sledge you may have copped on the field from an opponent?
From an opponent? I don't really cop sledges from opponents.
Yeah, I reckon you'd be a tough man to sledge.
You know what might be a good question is what's a sledge you've heard Libba get away with, and you've just gone, come on, Libba. Or he's known to be a sledger, isn't he?
Yeah. Was there any that made you like genuinely laugh?
Nah.
yeah.
Libba just makes me laugh in general. Like, he'll say something that won't even make sense, and you just laugh against Libba.
Yeah.
I laughed. Yeah, when we played against him this year, he tackled me in the first 5 seconds of the game, and he was saying something in my ear. He was like, because he tackled me so hard, he was like trying to rough me up.
Yeah,
it's like, sorry, man, I had to do this. And I was just like, that's just funny.
That is funny. That is hilarious.
Everyone outside thinking he hates him.
Yeah.
Like he hates me.
That's so
But then
funny.
he's in my ear. He's like, sorry, mate, just had to do this.
Yeah,
and that was it.
That's so good.
Well, things like that.
You see, obviously you and Adzy talked about the other day, but you see the whole Rory Lobb thing and them laughing about it. Obviously, it's well known. You have to get after him, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a thing. Like, everyone's gonna potentially boo the person that's left the club and coming back, but yeah, it's all tongue in cheek. Like, as I said earlier, I don't have any bad feelings with any of the boys at the Dogs whatsoever. So to go back and play against them and cop a bit of heat was, to me, funny, because I know that they don't dislike me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a bit fake, but it didn't work with Lobby, I don't think, either.
Nah.
Did he go well?
I kicked a few points, the big fella.
Yeah, he still went well.
Yeah,
I thought he did well.
He played a good game. And, I think it really actually affected Freo, to be honest. I think they focused too much on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of saying. Yeah, I feel like they just thought too much about that kind of stuff and the game within the game and didn't take care of the game itself. So,
do you think, is it addressed much about ex-players playing against their old teams? Do you reckon the Dogs talked about it much, or they may have mentioned it? But
yeah, I mean, that week they would have touched on it a little bit, I'm assuming, but they were 0-2, I think. They just lost to the Saints, so they would have been talking about a whole lot of stuff that week. And The media was all over him. So, yeah, I doubt. And Bevo, like I said, I didn't leave on bad terms. So Bevo wouldn't have really been like, this bloke's left because he hated the joint. Like, it wasn't like that. So, yeah, I don't think there would have been too much. And from all reports, it wasn't that much. But even for us, when we played Collingwood Dan McStay, he was coming up against his old team. There was nothing really said about, Macca's playing against us. Like, let's show him that he shouldn't have left. Things like that. Yeah. Like, nah, never.
It's all media.
Yeah. Should we get into the fan questions?
I think we should.
Now,
our fan questions are brought to you by our good friends Fleet Plant Hire, Dos. As you know, whether you need excavation, truck hire, or plant hire, they have you covered. Head to fbh.com.au and request a quote today.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Well, do you want to get them up?
Oh, yeah. Well, I probably should do that.
So we've got a few questions for you, mate.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of good ones in there, actually. So looking
couple of juicy ones.
Yeah, a couple of juicies.
So this one comes from, I always struggle with the names, but Dominic Fazzolari. What do you reckon, Fazzolari, Ralph? After your failed trade to Essendon a few years ago, why did you pick Brisbane as your preferred club of choice?
Well, I talked about it a bit earlier, but more just, I think, the lifestyle and obviously life after football. And when I the Essendon stuff was happening, my life was looking a lot different then. And I feel like now it's obviously I met Tipper, my partner, who's from Queensland herself. So I feel like the post footy stuff and post career stuff for the both of us is going to be up here, and it was just a nice opportunity to get started now.
Yeah, nice.
So Mikey Bednarak, he says, "What's your favourite cafe in the western suburbs?" It's a good one.
In Brisbane or?
Maybe let's go both, because we're in the west of Brisbane right now, aren't we? Or it's West End.
It's West End. I would say, most would say south side of the river.
South side.
I'm west over in Paddington, where I am. Best cafe around there, I'm going to say Chapter 4, it's called.
We might have to head there after.
Yeah, have a look. There's a few around the area. In Melbourne, in Footscray, I'm going to say West 48 or Adzy.
Yeah, we're Eastern boys, so we're not too familiar with that area. Now, we got Jake Leslie sent in, and he said to say hi to Dunks. He was at the Dogs for 3 years. Now, I said to him, mate, do you have a question?
Yeah.
And I said, do you have any dirt on him? And he said, and his first message was, yeah, I've got a couple. And then it came back 2 seconds later. He's actually, there's not much going to be bad to say about Dunks. So he said, pretty clean cut. But he said they nicknamed him Kenny for a bit.
Yeah.
Why was that the case?
Yeah, Bob Murphy, I saw him on the weekend, actually. He was the only guy to continue to call me Ken after, the first year. And it was purely because it was like Ken and Barbie. So they thought I looked like a Ken doll.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Dice? Do you think he does?
I disagreed, but...
Yeah.
Did you?
I don't reckon.
Yeah.
No, I don't reckon.
Very good looking man.
I don't reckon. I reckon you're not a Ken doll, but because you play you're such a 1% player.
Yeah.
Like you're in it. Gosh, number one smotherer.
Yeah, that's what I was a bit like, I don't really like this nickname. And then Bobby Murphy, he went to Freo, so it all stopped then.
I saw him in the Freo box the other day. I was like, I forgot about that. Yeah. It looked a bit weird.
Yeah, we've got one more.
One more? All right, perfect. So Jack Sats, this is probably more of a tongue-in-cheek one. Who's better at footy, Josh or Adz?
Adam's got the runs on the board, so let's just say Adam.
Has Adam got BNFs under his name?
No, he doesn't.
What is he? Does he have all Australian?
All flags?
No, all Australian either. Yeah.
Ooh, are you sure? You want to change your answer?
Nah.
Doesn't he?
No, he doesn't. He's been stiff. He's been all Australian squad, I think, 3 or 4 times.
Jeez, he is stiff.
And then second best and fairest at the Pies. But no best and fairest.
Who would you pick in Supercoach, yourself or Adz? Who racks up more Supercoach?
I don't know.
I haven't played Supercoach for a while. Do you know rough averages? Who may be averaging more? No, you just stay away from it. Yeah, fair enough.
I get a lot of messages about it, but
do you actually?
Yeah, all the time.
Like from people you know or people you don't like? Just
people that you know, that do it, that will say something to you in person. It's like I need you, come on, I want to put the captain on you or something like that.
Yeah. I'm surprised at that.
But even fans, when you go and have an open session, interstate or whatever it might be, and you see people over the fence, they're like, "Come on, mate, you need to lift your game a bit. You're the skipper this week. You let me down last week." I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
I've got one more question actually before we wrap up, and it's similar, but it's about now with obviously gambling being so big and same game multis, like everybody does it now. Normally, Josh is quite a what would you say, reliable 20 disposal or 25. But
we're not sponsored by Sportsbet.
We're not sponsored by Sportsbet, no, and we're not condoning gambling by any chance. But it was more of a serious question. Do you get people message you rogue messages about losing multis, or maybe they're positive messages saying thank you? But but more the negative stuff. And what do you have to say about people that blame players for their failed gambling?
Yeah, I think it's shocking. I've had some horrendous ones, terrible. And now these days with social media, you can sort of filter it a little bit so you don't get those types of messages. But man, I got a message one day about going and jumping off the Westgate Bridge, like that kind of stuff. Sending me the address, the Google Maps directions from Marvel Stadium to the Westgate Bridge, like things like that. And you're just like, how can these people say that, like to another person? Like, if you're down the street, you're not going to go and tell someone that, are you?
No, it's
so like. I think it's so bad. And I've got nothing against gambling and all that kind of stuff, but leave the players out of it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do it, go for it. Have a guess, whatever. You never know what's going to happen in an AFL field. Like, even if I was to be able to, if we were allowed to get, it's actually hard to do.
Yeah, of course.
You can't just expect someone to go out there and have 25 or
I
whatever
wondered
it
if
is.
we're talking about it and it started as a bit of a joke, and then we thought about it more seriously. We were watching the footy a couple of weeks ago, and we are talking about, do you reckon, like we were saying, do you think players worry about hitting certain possession marks or goals because of what may come if they don't?
It would not surprise me if that was the case.
So you think there may be guys at the Lions that would be thinking, they worried about hitting 15 or 20 or 25 or 2 goals or whatever because of the abuse that may come?
I feel like, I'm not sure if it would happen at the Lions, but it wouldn't surprise me if throughout the competition there was 1 or 2 guys that would maybe think of it, because I've experienced it before. It's not very nice, like when you read it. But now I've obviously learned not to read it, whereas a young player comes in, they don't really know about this stuff. So to then experience a message like that and then probably have to go out there and feel like you're going to have to, perform better to not cop these messages, probably realistic.
It's more probably disappointing for the people that I'm sure probably send you nice messages.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how many of those you get, but I mean now there's probably a lot of players that don't bother checking them now because they're like, it's just full of crap.
Well, I mean, I think the nice messages come from those around you all the time. So I feel like you get that, but to be honest, the negative way outweigh the positive for sure, which sucks.
Well, mate, I just want to firstly just say a big thank you for joining us today. It happened very quickly, which is nice.
Yeah,
and,
that's good. You know what? Very smooth operator, because normally it takes a month or a few weeks or so. Mate, well done. Thank you. It's been amazing.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, Josh. Appreciate your honesty, and I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy listening to this.
So we're now heading over.
Yeah, so audio's done. Now head over to YouTube if you want to get the next segment. We're going to play a little quiz with Josh, but that's over at YouTube. But everyone listening to audio, thank you.
Perfect. All right, Dunks. You love your footy, you always have since you were a kid. But we're going to do a little quiz. DOS versus D versus Dunks. Oh, the 3 Ds.
Yep.
Basically, let's test on how well you know your old doggies numbers.
Yep.
So, is it going to be current doggies numbers?
Yeah,
current
I think
dogs
so,
numbers?
yeah.
And current Lions numbers.
So we're going to get, roughly, a player at the team and the number. And we first one to buzz in and gets to guess. If you buzz in too early and get it wrong, minus points.
So what are the buzzers?
I'm saying...
So buzz, test your buzzers.
All right, DOS.
D.
Dunks.
Perfect.
Yeah. And Ralph, you facilitate. So you say
So I'm saying 1 point for getting it correct. If you buzz in and you get it wrong, you lose a point.
And then somebody else can buzz in if it's incorrect.
Yeah, that's correct.
How are you feeling, firstly, Dunks? Confident? How do you go in numbers?
Yeah, pretty good. There's a few like new faces at the Dogs that I'll be a little bit unaware of. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Sure, I reckon you have Lions, but he's going to be very hot on the buzz.
Yeah.
I'll try my best not to get too,
excited.
Josh, I got to keep it cool in front of them.
All right, here we go.
Right, the names could be pronounced wrong. So
that's okay.
Right, number 1, Western Bulldogs. Number 4,
Dunks.
DOS, I think.
That's a very easy start.
Yeah, that is Marcus Bontempelli.
Yeah, that's correct.
One
One
point
point
to
to you.
DOS.
Remember your own points.
Gee, that was tight, wasn't it? That was close.
That was close. Right, number 2, Brisbane Lions. Number 18.
Dunks. Kitty Coleman.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, well done.
You
Very
were close.
nice.
You were about to say...
Nah, I wouldn't have got it.
All right, number 3, Western Bulldogs. Number 15.
DOS. Taylor Duray.
He's good. He's good.
That's
you're
good.
I feel like, you know what? I feel like if it's going to be Western Bulldogs, he's going to say DOS.
Yeah, I know. If he says it too quick,
Don't
cut the
take my
number off and
strategy,
let him
Don't take my strategy.
Let him take a stab if he goes too early.
Okay, number 4, Brisbane Lions. Number 33.
D. That'd be Zach Bailey.
Yeah.
Well done.
So what the scores right now? 3-1.
2-1.
2-1.
2-1. Okay. Number 5, Western Bulldogs. Number 28.
Dunks.
Oh, damn it.
Anthony Scott.
Yeah, well done.
Correct.
Oh,
The 2
Well
2
played.
1. Right, number 6, halfway through. Brisbane Lions, number 5.
Josh.
Dunks.
Oh, you can't. The big fella next to us,
Yeah.
Josh Dunkley.
That's correct.
Did you get that? Did you
Yeah.
buzz in? Oh no.
So 3 2 1.
Yeah, I'm gone. I think.
Number 7. Western Bulldogs, number 1.
Dos.
Dunks. Oh.
Wow, you're fast, man.
Adzy Treloar.
Adzy.
Adam Treloar.
Yes, that's correct. All right, 3 to go. So
4-3.
No,
Yeah.
4-2-1.
4-2-1.
So you got to
I've got to get one in.
Are we going to go double points at all?
Come
or
on, Dunks.
no?
Maybe number 10 could be double points.
All right.
Number 8. Brisbane Lions, number 8.
Dunks.
D-
Will Ashcroft.
Yes.
Nice.
So 4-3-1.
Yep.
Number 9. Western Bulldogs, number 19.
Dos.
Oh, I know
Ooh.
a team.
Liam Jones.
Damn it. I knew
Yeah.
that one.
So 5-3-1. So you can equalise it with double points.
Double
Make
points.
it double.
It is
Yeah.
double.
And if
So
it's
it is-
double,
it is
if it's double, I'll come up with one off the top of my head.
All
All
right.
right.
Okay. Number 10. Brisbane Lions, number 10.
Dunks.
I knew it.
Daniel Rich.
Yes.
Of course.
Correct. So 5-5-1.
Okay.
So do you want to come up with
Yeah, all right, I'll come up with one right off the top of my
Should it
head.
be a current player or
Do you want a current or ex?
Nah, let's do one that like an ex-player.
yeah?
Ex-player.
Or
Okay,
anyone.
okay.
Just do anyone in the comp. Actually, right now.
Well, any
Any
club.
club.
Any
anyone,
club.
anyone in the comp?
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
okay. Let me. Oh fuck. All right. I want to go kind of hard.
Yeah, do it kind of hard.
Okay, let's go West Coast.
Oh,
Ooh,
jeez. Interstate. It's not my strong suit, but
Number 3.
Dunks.
oh,
Gaff.
Got it.
Well done.
Bang.
Wow.
Q boy.
Is he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Gaff is. Well done, Dunks wins. And he
Well done,
what-
well, Dunks.
well done, Dunks.
We don't have any prizes, but
Bragging rights.
mate, thanks for joining us.
No
It's
worries.
been an
Appreciate it.
absolute pleasure, mate. Mate, hopefully we'll stay in touch and do some more together later on.
Sounds good.